My wife Samantha Dean filed for divorce on our 10th wedding anniversary. She thought she was being clever, timing it perfectly to destroy what should have been our celebration. What she didn't know was that I had been preparing for this moment. For 6 months, you see. Samantha wasn't just planning to leave me. She was planning to steal my entire architecture firm, frame me for embezzlement, and run off with my business partner, who had been feeding her inside information. She had forged documents, manipulated contracts, and even convinced our biggest clients that I was mentally unstable. But here's the thing about being connected to forces beyond this world. Sometimes you get advance warnings. Sometimes you get a chance to prepare the perfect counterattack. And sometimes, when someone tries to destroy your life, you get to hand them exactly the papers they deserve. This is the story of how my anniversary became her judgment day. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from and if this story touches you. Make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Felix Hughes, and I built Pinnacle Designs from nothing. What started as a one-man operation in a cramped Brookstone apartment 10 years ago had grown into the most prestigious architectural firm in the entire Westfield district. We'd designed everything from luxury condominiums in downtown Millbrook to the award-winning cultural center that put our city on the architectural map. But success in business means nothing when your personal life is crumbling around you. I was sitting in my corner office on the 32nd floor of the Meridian Tower, reviewing blueprints for our latest project, when my assistant knocked softly on the door. "Mr. Hughes, there's a courier here with documents for you. Says it's urgent." The envelope was thick, official-looking, with the letterhead of Blackwood and Associates, one of the most expensive divorce law firms in the city. My hands didn't shake as I opened it. Well, they should have, but they didn't. Because deep down, I'd been expecting this moment for months. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The date at the top made my stomach turn. October 15th, our 10th wedding anniversary. Samantha had actually filed for divorce on the exact day we'd gotten married a decade ago. I thought back to that day, October 15th, 10 years ago, when Samantha Dean had walked down the aisle of the Maplewood Chapel in that stunning white dress. She'd been everything I thought I wanted. Brilliant, ambitious, beautiful. She had her master's degree in business administration and promised to help me build an empire, and she had, in a way. Hughes and Associates, as it was called, then became Pinnacle Designs under her guidance. But somewhere along the way, she'd stopped being my partner and started being my competitor. "Everything all right, sir?" My assistant, Mrs. Chen, was still standing in the doorway, her face creased with concern. "Yes, everything's fine," I lied smoothly. "Just some routine paperwork." After she left, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Samantha's number. It went straight to voicemail. Of course it did. Her voice was crisp and professional. "You've reached Samantha Dean Hughes, senior partner at Pinnacle Designs. Please leave a message, senior partner." When did she started calling herself that? I tried calling the office line. "Pinnacle Designs. This is Jude speaking. Jude Kennedy. My business partner of 5 years. The man I'd brought in to handle the client relations side of things while I focused on design. The man I'd trusted with everything. Jude, it's Felix. Is Samantha there?" There was a pause. Too long of a pause. No, she's out with a client. Some kind of emergency consultation. In Thornfield, won't be back until late." Thornfield was 3 hours away. If she had a client emergency there, why hadn't I heard about it? Why wasn't I, the lead architect and company founder, informed about major client issues? "Which client?" I asked carefully. Another pause. "The Harrison development. You know, the one she's been handling exclusively. The Harrison development. The multi-million-dollar project that would define our firm's future. The project Samantha had indeed been handling exclusively, keeping me strangely distant from the client meetings. I'd found it odd, but she'd explained it away. They specifically requested to work with me, Felix. Sometimes clients have preferences. I hung up and stared at the divorce papers again. The legal language was dense, but certain phrases jumped out. Irreconcilable differences. Equitable distribution of assets. Dissolution of business partnership. Business partnership. My phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. You have been selected for our services. Do you accept the mission parameters? I stared at the message, confused. Some kind of spam, probably. But then another message appeared. Mr. Hughes, your current reality is unstable. We can offer assistance, but you must choose to accept our guidance. Time-sensitive opportunity. Before I could process what was happening, my office phone rang. Mr. Hughes. There's a problem with the Harrison account, came the voice of our accountant Devlin from the finance department. Some discrepancies in the payments. Funds that should have gone to the company account seem to have been redirected. Redirected where? I'm not sure. Mrs. Hughes handled all the banking arrangements for this project. She said you'd authorized. The alternative payment structure. My blood ran cold. Alternative payment structure? I'd authorized no such thing. I hung up and immediately called our bank. After 20 minutes of being transferred between departments, I finally reached someone who could access our accounts. Mr. Hughes. According to our records, Mrs. Hughes has signatory authority on all company accounts as of 6 months ago. She's made several large transfers recently. What kind of transfers? I can't discuss specific details over the phone, but I'd recommend you come in person tomorrow morning. 6 months ago. That's when Samantha had suggested streamlining our financial operations for efficiency. I'd signed the papers without reading them carefully after all. I trusted my wife. My phone buzzed again. We can see you're beginning to understand. Accept our mission and we'll show you how deep this goes. You have 24 hours to decide. I looked out my office window at the Brookstone skyline, the city I'd helped reshape with my designs. Somewhere out there. My wife was planning my destruction with surgical precision, but I wasn't as defenseless as she thought. I picked up my phone and typed, I accept. The response from the mysterious number came within seconds. Mission parameters. Accepted. Proceed to the Elmwood District parking garage, level B3, northeast corner. Come alone. Tell no one. I stared at the message, my rational mind screaming that this was insane. But then I looked at the divorce papers again, thought about the missing funds, the lies, the betrayal. What did I have to lose? The drive to Elmwood took 25 minutes through downtown Brookstone traffic. The parking garage was one of those anonymous concrete structures that dotted the business district. Level B3 was almost empty except for a few scattered cars. In the northeast corner, a figure in a dark coat was waiting beside a black sedan. As I approached, the figure turned. It was a woman, maybe mid-30s, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that seemed to see too much. Felix Hughes, she said. Not a question. Agent Kira Thorne. I represent an organization that monitors irregularities in reality. Your situation has come to our attention. What organization? I asked, keeping my distance. One that understands when someone's life has been hijacked by forces they don't? See coming, she handed me a tablet. Your wife's activities have created what we call a destabilization event. Her actions are about to destroy not just you, but several innocent families. We're here to restore balance. The tablet showed financial records, my company's accounts, but with transactions I'd never authorized. Hundreds of thousands of dollars moved to offshore accounts. Project funds redirected to shell companies. Client payments that never reached Pinnacle Designs. This is impossible, I whispered, scrolling through the evidence. These transactions. Some of them are dated from 8 months ago. Your wife has been planning this for almost a year, Agent Thorne said quietly. The divorce filing today was just the final move. By next week, she and Mr. Kennedy would have disappeared with over $2 million of your company's assets. You would have been left bankrupt and facing federal embezzlement charges. My legs felt weak. I leaned against a concrete pillar. Embezzlement charges? The missing Harrison development funds? They're going to blame you? Your wife has been carefully documenting every transaction, making it look like you've been stealing from your own company to fund a gambling addiction. I don't gamble, no. But according to the evidence she's planted, you've been frequenting the Sapphire Bay Casino Resort for months. Credit card receipts, security camera footage of someone who looks remarkably like you, even witness statements from dealers who swear they know you personally. The tablet showed photographs of a man who could have been my twin at casino tables, losing large sums of money. The resemblance was uncanny, everything from my hair color to my preferred clothing brands. How is this possible? Your wife is very thorough and very connected. The man in those photos is an actor named Toby Webb. He's been paid handsomely. To impersonate you for the past 6 months? Every gambling session was carefully choreographed to create evidence of your supposed addiction. I felt nauseous. The bank records, the company accounts. All of it will be traced back to you covering gambling debts. Your wife made sure of that. By the time the authorities finish their investigation, you'll be facing 10 to 15 years in federal prison. The full scope of the betrayal hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just a divorce. It was character assassination, financial ruin, and imprisonment, all wrapped into one perfect package. Why are you telling me this? I asked. What do you want? Agent Thorne smiled, and for the first time, there was something almost maternal in her expression. We want to offer you a choice, Felix. You can walk away from this meeting, go home, and let events unfold as your wife has planned. Face bankruptcy, criminal charges, and spend the next decade in prison while she and Kennedy live comfortably on your stolen money. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Or you can accept our mission. We'll give you the tools and information you need to turn her plan against her. Every piece of evidence she's fabricated can be exposed. Every lie she's told can be unraveled. Every crime she's committed can be proven. I looked at the tablet. Again, scrolling through bank records, fake casino footage, forged documents. The level of planning was staggering. How long had Samantha been working on this? How many nights had she lain next to me in bed, planning my destruction? Catch? I asked. The mission isn't without risk. And once you start down this path, there's no going back. Your wife and Kennedy will realize you're fighting back, and they'll escalate their efforts to destroy you. Are you prepared for that level of conflict? I thought about the past few months, Samantha's increasing coldness, the way she'd been, excluding me from business decisions, the mysterious phone calls she'd take in private. All of it made sense now. She's not going to stop, is she? I said. Even if I don't fight back, she's going to follow through with the plan to frame me. The evidence suggests she's too committed to turn back now. She needs you to take the fall. For the missing money, or she'll be the one facing criminal charges. I closed my eyes and made my decision. When I opened them, Agent Thorne was watching me with those knowing eyes. I accept the mission, I said. She nodded and handed me a phone. This is your direct line to our support team. Phase 1 begins now. Go home, act normal, and wait for our instructions. Tomorrow, we start gathering the evidence that will save your life and destroy hers. As I drove home through the Brookstone, evening traffic, one thought kept running through my mind. Samantha had chosen to destroy me on our anniversary. Now, I was going to return the favor. The next morning, arrived at the office an hour early. The special phone Agent Thorne had given me buzzed with my first mission instructions. Document everything. Install surveillance app on your computer. Record all interactions. Today they will make their move. I was barely settled at my desk. When Jude knocked on my door, his usual, easy smile seemed strained, and there was something predatory in his eyes that I'd never noticed before. Felix, we need to talk, he said, closing the door behind him. About the Harrison project? About it, there are some ... irregularities in the financial reporting? Our client is asking questions. He sat down across from my desk, his body language tense. They're saying money is missing. I kept my expression neutral, even though my heart was racing. Missing how? Well, according to their records, they've paid us $1.8 million for Phase 1, but our books only show $900,000 received. Jude leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Felix, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Have you been ... moving money around? Maybe to cover some personal expenses? The audacity was breathtaking. They were actually going to gaslight me in real time. I haven't touched any project funds, I said evenly. Every transaction requires both our signatures. That's what I told the client, but Jude pulled out a folder and spread several bank statements across my desk. Look at these transfers. They're all authorized with your digital signature. $50,000 here, $75,000 there. All going to something called Cascade Holdings. Studied the documents. They looked legitimate. My digital signature, my authorization codes, even my personal banking password as verification. If I didn't know better, I would have believed I'd made these transfers myself. I've never heard of Cascade Holdings, I said. Jude's expression shifted to concern, but I could see the calculation behind his eyes. Felix, I'm worried about you. You've been under a lot of stress lately. Samantha mentioned you've been having some ... personal issues, maybe memory problems. They were setting up a mental incompetence angle as backup. My memory's fine, I said firmly. And these transactions were not authorized by me, but that's your signature. Passwords, your access codes. Jude gathered the papers back up. Look, I'm trying to help you here. If we can quietly resolve this before the client involves law enforcement, we might be able to work something out. Can maybe get you some help. My phone buzzed with a text from Agent Thorne. Check your email. Evidence incoming. I glanced at my computer. Screen and saw a new message with the subject line, Cascade Holdings, Corporate Registration. I opened it while Jude continued talking. The email contained legal documents showing that Cascade Holdings was incorporated 6 months ago. The listed corporate officers made my blood run cold. Samantha Dean Hughes as president. And a name I didn't recognize, Amelia Clark, as vice president. But when I scrolled down to the corporate address, everything clicked into place. Cascade Holdings was registered to a building in Thornfield, the same city where Samantha was supposedly meeting with clients yesterday. Jude, I interrupted. Who is Amelia Clark? He blinked, clearly caught off guard by the question. I what? I don't know anyone by that name, but the micro-expression that crossed his face told a different story. He knew exactly who Amelia Clark was. My office phone rang. Mrs. Chen's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Hughes, there are some FBI agents here to see you. Jude's face went pale. FBI. The timing was too perfect to be coincidental. We're escalating faster than I'd expected. 2 agents in dark suits entered my office. The lead agent, a stern woman with gray hair, flashed her badge. Mr. Hughes, I'm Agent Georgia Schmidt, FBI Financial Crimes Division. We'd like to ask you some questions about irregularities in your business accounts. Of course, I said, standing up, though I should mention I've only recently become aware of these irregularities myself. Agent Schmidt exchanged a look with her partner. It's Mr. Hughes. We have evidence suggesting systematic embezzlement from your company accounts over the SDA. Past 8 months? Approximately $1.2 million has been transferred to offshore accounts linked to your personal gambling debts. Don't gamble, I said. Sir, we have security footage, credit card records, and witness statements placing you at the Sapphire Bay Casino Resort on over 30 occasions in the past 6 months. She opened a tablet and showed me surveillance photos of Toby Webb, my doppelganger, at various casino tables. That's not me in those photos. Jude stepped forward, his expression a perfect mask of concern and confusion. What are you talking about? Of course that's you. I recognize your clothes, your mannerisms. I stared at him in disbelief. He was actually going to corroborate their false evidence right here in front of federal agents. Agent Schmidt continued. Mr. Hughes, we've also received information that you've been exhibiting erratic behavior lately. Your business partner, Mr. Kennedy, has expressed concerns about your mental state. The phone Agent Thorne had given me vibrated once in my pocket, some kind of signal. I subtly checked the screen and saw a message. Do not volunteer information. Request attorney. Don't have warrant yet. I'd like to speak with my attorney before answering any more questions, I said. Agent Schmidt nodded curtly. But you're right. But Mr. Hughes, I should inform you that we'll be freezing your business accounts pending investigation. And we may need to seize company computers and records as evidence. After the FBI agents left with several boxes of documents and a promise to return with a warrant, Jude lingered in my office. The mask of friendly concern had completely slipped away. Felix, this doesn't have to get ugly, he said quietly. If you cooperate, admit to the gambling problem, maybe we can work out a deal. Samantha and I could keep the company running while you get treatment. How generous of you both. She still cares about you, you know? This is just business. I looked at this man I'd trusted for 5 years, this person I'd brought into my company, shared my dreams with, considered a friend. Where is she, Jude? Really? He smiled, and for the first time, it was completely genuine. Probably shopping for furniture for our new place in Thornfield. Did you know Amelia Clark is actually Samantha's maiden name from her first marriage? The one she never told? You about? The revelation hit like a physical blow. Not only had Samantha been planning to destroy me for a year, but our entire marriage had been built on lies I'd never even suspected. As Jude left my office, whistling softly, my special phone buzzed with another message from Agent Thorne. Phase 2 initiated. They're moving faster than expected. Time for the counterstrike. Asterisk. By 6 p.m., the Pinnacle Designs office was empty, except for me. The FBI had taken most of our computer servers, and with the accounts frozen, we couldn't pay our contractors or suppliers. In one day, they'd effectively killed my company. My special. Phone rang. Agent Thorne's voice was crisp and urgent. Felix, we need to meet. Now, there's been a development. What kind of development? The kind that could save your life or end it, depending on how you handle the next few hours? 20 minutes later, I was back in the Elmwood District parking garage. Agent Thorne was waiting with a different vehicle this time, a black SUV with tinted windows. Get in, she said. We're going for a ride. As we drove through downtown Brookstone, she handed me another tablet. We've been monitoring Samantha. In Jude's communications, they're planning to accelerate their timeline. The screen showed text message exchanges between Samantha and someone listed as a Clark, which I now knew was her talking to herself using her secret identity. Samantha. FBI moved faster than expected. Need to implement backup plan. A. Clark? Agreed. Eliminate loose ends. How confident are you about the Thornfield asset, Samantha? Very. He has no idea what's coming. What's the Thornfield asset? I asked. Agent Thorne's expression darkened. That's what we need to discuss. Felix, your wife's criminal activities extend far beyond just stealing from you. Amelia Clark, her real identity, has been running a sophisticated identity theft and financial fraud operation for over 8 years. She showed me a file thick with police reports, financial records, and photographs. 3 previous husbands, all successful businessmen. All destroyed the same way you're being destroyed. All currently serving prison sentences for crimes they didn't commit. My hands shook as I flipped through the documentation. Ronald Martinez, an auto shop owner in Phoenix, bankrupted and imprisoned for insurance fraud. Nathan Palmer, a software developer in Seattle, convicted of embezzling from his own company. Max Webb, a restaurant owner in Denver, sentenced to 12 years for tax evasion and money laundering. She's done this before, I whispered. Multiple times. Always the same pattern. Seduce successful businessmen. Integrate into his business. Slowly gain financial control, then systematically destroy him while stealing everything he's built. Agent Thorne pulled out another photo. But this time there's a complication. The photo showed a young man, maybe early 20s, standing outside a modest house in what looked like a small town. He had Samantha's eyes and nose, her son from her first marriage, Archie Bell. He's been helping with the technical aspects, computer hacking, digital forgery, creating false identities. But according to our intelligence, he's developed a conscience. She showed me intercepted phone recordings of heated arguments between Samantha and Archie. In one, he was pleading with her to stop. Mom, this guy Felix seems like a good person. Why can't you just take some money and leave? Why do you have to destroy him completely? Samantha's response was ice cold. Because witnesses are liabilities, Archie. He's seen too much, knows too much. If he doesn't go to prison, he'll eventually figure out how to expose us. What does this have to do with the Thornfield asset, I asked. Archie lives in Thornfield. And tonight, Samantha and Jude are driving there to silence him permanently. She's convinced that he's about to turn against her and go to the authorities. The implications hit me like a freight train. She's going to kill her own son, a tattern, suggests she eliminates anyone who becomes a liability, including family. Agent Thorne stopped the SUV at a red light and turned to face me. Felix, this is your moment of choice. We can give you evidence to clear your name and expose Samantha's crimes. But to save Archie Bell's life, you need to get to Thornfield before they do. Why can't you just call the local police? Because we don't officially exist, and Samantha has been very careful to ensure that any accusations against her look like desperate attempts by her mentally unstable husband to avoid prosecution. Local law enforcement won't believe you without concrete evidence. She handed me a small recording device and a GPS tracker. If you can get to Archie first, convince him to talk, and record his confession about their operation, we'll have enough evidence to bring down the entire network. But Felix... Her voice grew serious. If you do this, you're putting yourself at extreme risk. Samantha won't hesitate to eliminate you too if she realizes you're interfering. I thought about the young man in the photo, probably scared and confused, being hunted by his own mother. I thought about the other victims, Ronald, Nathan, Max, sitting in prison cells for crimes they didn't commit. I thought about how many other men Samantha might destroy if her operation continued. How long do I have? They left Brookstone an hour ago. Thornfield is a 3-hour drive. If you leave now, you might beat them there by 20 minutes. I took the recording device and GPS tracker. What's Archie's address? Agent Thorne smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her. Felix, what you're about to do... It's going to save an innocent life and expose a criminal who's destroyed multiple families. That takes real courage. As I climbed out of the SUV, she called after me. One more thing. Whatever happens tonight, don't let Samantha manipulate you. She's extremely skilled at reading people and using their emotions against them. Remember what she's done to you and what she's done to others. I drove out of Brookstone at 7:30 p.m., my hands steady on the wheel for the first time in days. For months, I'd been reacting to Samantha's moves, always one step behind, always defensive. Tonight I was finally taking control. But as the city lights faded in my rearview mirror and the dark highway stretched ahead, I realized that I was driving toward a confrontation that would either save multiple lives or end mine. The scared, betrayed husband was gone. In his place was someone who understood that sometimes you have to risk everything to do.
What's right?
3 hours to Thornfield. 3 hours to stop a killer. I arrived in Thornfield at 10:45 p.m., 15 minutes ahead of schedule. The town was small enough that finding Archie Bell's address took only 10 minutes of driving through quiet residential streets. The house was a modest 2-story on Maple Street, with a single light glowing in an upstairs window. I parked across the street and activated the recording device Agent Thorne had given me. My hands were surprisingly steady as I walked to the front door and knocked. The young man who answered looked exactly like his photo, but thinner and more haggard. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his hands shook slightly as he gripped the doorframe. Archie Bell, I asked. He nodded warily. Who are you? My name is Felix Hughes. Your mother is married to me. She's on her way here to kill you. His face went completely white. Oh God, he whispered. Found out what? He looked past me into the dark street, then quickly pulled me inside. I contacted the FBI 3 days ago. I couldn't keep helping her destroy innocent people. His voice broke. I've been part of this for 5 years, ever since I turned 18. She said we were just redistributing wealth from rich jerks who wouldn't miss it. But then I started researching the men whose lives we destroyed. We sat in his small living room and Archie told me everything. How Samantha had been running her operation since before he was born, how she'd used different identities to marry and destroy at least 8 men over the years, how she'd recruited him to handle the technical aspects when he became old enough. The fake casino footage, the digital signatures, shell companies. That was all me, he confessed, tears streaming down his face. I created false identities, hacked banking systems, forged documents. I helped her steal millions of dollars and destroy dozens of lives. Why did you finally decide to stop? Because of you, he said quietly. She made me research your background before she married you. You weren't some corrupt businessman or a criminal like she usually targeted. You were genuinely good. You donated anonymously to charities. You gave jobs to people who couldn't find work anywhere else. You treated everyone with respect. And she was going to destroy you anyway just because she could. I activated the recording device openly, setting it on the coffee table between us. Archie, I need you to tell me everything on record, not just about me, but about all the other victims. Their names, dates, methods, everything. For the next 20 minutes, Archie provided a detailed confession of the entire operation. Names, locations, bank accounts, forged documents, hacking methods. He had kept meticulous records, partly as insurance against his mother, partly out of guilt. At 11:30 p.m., headlights swept across the front windows. A car was pulling into the driveway. "She's here," Archie whispered. I quickly called Agent Thorne. "We have the confession. They just arrived. Local law enforcement is 2 minutes away. Keep them talking until backup arrives." Front door burst open without warning. Samantha strode in, still beautiful and composed, but with something predatory in her eyes I'd never seen before. Jude followed close behind, carrying what looked like a medical bag. "Hello, darling," Samantha said to me, her voice sickeningly sweet. Fancy meeting you here? Mom, please?" Archie stood up, backing toward the stairs. "I haven't told anyone anything." "Oh, but you have, sweetheart." She pulled out her phone and showed him a screenshot of his contact with the FBI. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? I monitor all your communications." Jude opened the medical bag, revealing syringes and small vials of clear liquid. "Don't worry, it'll look like a drug overdose. Tragic young man, couldn't handle the pressure of his mother's divorce, turned to heroin." 2 overdoses in one night might seem suspicious, Samantha mused, looking at me. But a murder-suicide? Distraught husband kills his wife's son, then takes his own life. That has a nice dramatic flair. I stood up slowly, keeping the recording device hidden behind my back. "Samantha, this is over. I know about Amelia Clark. I know about Ronald Martinez, Nathan Palmer, Max Webb. I know about all of them." Her composure flickered for just a moment. Clever boy. But knowing and proving are very different things. "Actually," I said, pulling out the recording device, "proving is exactly what we've been doing for the past 20 minutes. Samantha's eyes fixed on the device, and for the first time since I'd known her, she looked genuinely afraid. "You recorded us?" "Everything," Archie said, finding his courage. "Felix, I told him everything." "About the fake documents, the shell companies, the previous victims, all of it." Jude started toward me, syringe in hand, but red and blue lights suddenly flooded the windows. Car doors slammed outside and heavy footsteps approached the house. FBI. "Open the door." Agent Georgia Schmidt entered with a team of federal agents, weapons drawn. But she wasn't the stern investigator from my office anymore. She was Agent Thorne's partner, and she was smiling. "Samantha Dean, also known as Amelia Clark, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, identity theft, money laundering, and federal wire fraud." As the handcuffs clicked around Samantha's wrists, Agent Schmidt continued, "Jude Kennedy, you're under arrest as an accessory to these crimes." Samantha turned to look at me one last time, her mask of civility completely gone. "You have no idea what you've just done, Felix? You think this ends with me? I have partners, connections. This operation is bigger than you imagine." "Maybe," I said, "but it ends with you tonight." As they led her away, she shouted back, "You'll never be free. Of this, even from prison, I'll make sure you pay for destroying my life." Agent Schmidt handed me back the recording device. "Mr. Hughes, this confession is going to clear your name and put away a criminal network that's been operating for over a decade.
Oh.
The charges against you will be dropped by morning." Outside, I watched as they loaded Samantha and Jude into separate federal vehicles. Archie stood beside me, looking lost but relieved. "What happens to me now?" he asked. "You cooperated, provided evidence, and helped save lives," Agent Schmidt said. "You'll face charges. But given your cooperation and the fact that you were essentially coerced into this life from childhood, I expect you'll receive immunity in exchange for testimony. As the federal convoy drove away into the night, I realized that my 10-year marriage was finally, truly over. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. 6 months later, I was standing in the lobby of the newly renovated Pinnacle Design's headquarters when the morning news began its lead story: convicted fraudster Samantha Dean, also known as Amelia Clark, was sentenced yesterday to 45 years in federal prison for her role in a multi-state identity theft and fraud operation that destroyed the lives of at least 12 men over the past decade. The news anchor continued, Dean's elaborate schemes involved marrying successful businessmen, systematically stealing their assets, and framing them for crimes they didn't commit. Her final victim, architect Felix Hughes, worked with federal authorities to expose the operation and save Dean's own son from becoming her next murder victim. I turned off the television and walked back to my office, the same corner office in the Meridian Tower. But everything else had changed. The company was thriving again. Our accounts had been unfrozen once all charges against me were dropped, and we'd even landed several new high-profile projects. But more importantly, I had changed. The scared, reactive man who had sat in this same office 6 months ago, staring at divorce papers, was gone. In his place was someone who understood that sometimes the greatest betrayals become the catalyst for the greatest transformations. My assistant knocked on the door. Mr. Hughes? Mr. Martinez is here for his 10 a.m. appointment. Ronald Martinez walked into my office, and we shook hands like old friends, which in a way we'd become. He was the auto shop owner from Phoenix, one of Samantha's previous victims, who had spent 3 years in federal prison for insurance fraud he never committed. Felix, you look good, he said, settling into the chair across from my desk. How are you adjusting to freedom?
What?
Better every day, I replied. How about you? How's the new shop? Business is booming. Turns out there's something to be said for being known as the guy who survived a federal prison sentence for a crime he didn't commit. People trust that I've been through the worst and came out honest. He smiled. Plus, the settlement money from the government doesn't hurt. All of Samantha's victims had been exonerated and released from prison within weeks of her arrest. The federal government, embarrassed by the scope of the fraud that had gone undetected for so long, had offered substantial financial settlements to avoid wrongful imprisonment lawsuits. Any word from the others? I asked. Nathan Palmer opened. A new software company in Seattle. Bigger than his original one. Max Webb is considering franchising his restaurant concept. Ronald leaned forward. We've all been thinking maybe we should form some kind of support group, help other people who've been victimized by similar schemes. It was a good idea. In the months since Samantha's arrest, we discovered that organized marriage fraud was more common than anyone realized. Sophisticated criminals who targeted successful, trusting people and destroyed their lives for profit. I'd like that, I said. In fact, I've been working with Agent Thorne's organization on something similar. Ronald raised an eyebrow.
How?
The mysterious Agent Thorne. I never did get a clear explanation of who she works for. I smiled. Even I didn't have a complete picture of Agent Thorne's organization, but I'd learned enough to know they were legitimate. They monitored situations where innocent people were being systematically destroyed by criminals who had learned to manipulate legal and financial systems. Sometimes they intervened, sometimes they just observed, but always they were watching. Just say there are people who make sure that when good people are in impossible situations, they don't have to face them alone. After Ronald left, I reviewed the architectural plans for our latest project, a community center for victims of financial crimes. It would house support groups, legal aid services, and educational programs to help people recognize and avoid fraud schemes. It was being funded entirely by the settlements that Samantha's victims had received. My phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I recognized, Agent Thorne. Felix, how are you feeling today? She asked. Like someone who survived something that should have destroyed him. Good, because I have a proposition for you. Her voice took on that serious tone I remembered from our first meeting. We've identified another situation. Software executive. in Portland whose wife appears to be running a similar operation. He's in the early stages, suspicious financial activity, mysterious business partner, wife becoming increasingly distant. I understood immediately. You want me to make contact? You're uniquely qualified to recognize the signs and help him understand what's happening before it's too late. But Felix, this would mean getting involved in something dangerous again. Are you ready for that? I thought about the man I'd been 6 months ago, successful but naive, trusting but passive, good-hearted but ineffective when it mattered most. That man would have been crushed by what Samantha put me through, but the man I'd become. He understood that sometimes you have to walk into danger to prevent others from being destroyed. Yes, I said. I'm ready. That evening I stood in my new apartment, a smaller place downtown, modern and clean, with no memories of Samantha attached to it. I was preparing dinner when I found myself thinking about anniversaries. October 15th would always be significant. To me, but not for the reason I'd expected when I woke up that morning 6 months ago. It wasn't the anniversary of my marriage anymore. It was the anniversary of my liberation. Samantha had chosen that date to file for divorce, because she wanted to inflict maximum emotional damage. She wanted to turn what should have been a celebration into a day of devastation. But instead, October 15th had become the day one. Stopped being a victim and started fighting back. The papers she'd served me that morning were supposed to be the beginning of my destruction. But the papers she really deserved, the federal indictment, the criminal charges, evidence that exposed her entire operation, those papers had become her destruction instead. My doorbell rang. When I opened it, I found a young man who looked familiar, but whom I couldn't quite place. Mr. Hughes. I'm Archie Bell. Samantha's son looked completely different than he had that night in Thornfield. He'd gained weight, the dark circles were gone from under his eyes, and he carried himself with a confidence that hadn't been there before. Archie, I said, genuinely pleased to see him. Come in.
Oh.
How are you doing? Better than I have any right to be, thanks to you. He stepped into my apartment and looked around. I wanted to thank you in person, and to give you this, he handed me a thick envelope. Inside were bank statements, account numbers, and what looked like cryptocurrency wallet addresses. What is this? Every dollar my mother stole from you and the others. I've been working with the FBI to track down all the hidden assets, offshore accounts, cryptocurrency wallets. It's all there. Your money, their money, everything. He paused. I know money can't undo what she did, but it's a start. I stared at the documents. The amount was staggering. Not just what she'd stolen from me, but millions of dollars stolen from all her victims over the years. Archie, this is incredible. But what about you? Don't you deserve some kind of compensation for what she put you through? He shook his head. I was complicit for 5 years. I don't deserve compensation. I deserve to make amends. He pulled out a business card. I'm starting a cybersecurity company that specializes in protecting people from the kind of digital fraud I use to help perpetrate. Consider it my way of paying back the universe. After Archie left, I sat in my living room holding the envelope. Of recovered assets, tomorrow I'd contact the other victims and let them know their stolen money had been found. Ronald could expand his auto shop. Nathine could invest more in his software company. Necess could open additional restaurants. But more than that, I realized I was holding proof that justice wasn't just about punishment. It was about restoration, about making things right, about turning destruction into reconstruction 6 months ago. Been a man whose life was being systematically destroyed by someone he trusted. Tonight, I was someone who had not only survived that destruction, but had become stronger, wiser, and more purposeful because of it. The scared husband was gone forever. In his place was someone who understood that the greatest victories come not from avoiding battles, but from fighting the right ones at the right time for the right reasons. And tomorrow, I'd start helping another innocent person fight the battle of their life. Because sometimes, the papers you really deserve aren't the ones that destroy you. They're the ones that set you free. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.